The conference room buzzed with quiet tension as Amara stepped in, her baby nestled against her chest in a soft carrier. She was dressed professionally, navy blazer, sleek slacks, but all eyes went straight to the infant. A few panelists exchanged glances. One woman raised an eyebrow. A man leaned over to whisper something, and a soft chuckle followed. Amara heard it. She felt it. The silent judgment clung to the air like humidity before a storm. This was supposed to be the biggest opportunity of her life, pitching her nonprofit to a panel of donors who had the power to change everything. Years of groundwork, tireless nights, grant writing, and community outreach had led her to this moment. But now, the presence of her daughter, a sleeping baby, no less, seemed to strip the room of its openness. She adjusted the strap on her shoulder, offering a polite smile, trying to pretend she didn't notice the discomfort her presence caused. But she did. She noticed every shift in posture, every averted gaze. They didn't see a leader, a visionary, or a woman fighting for underserved mothers. They saw someone unprepared. Someone unprofessional. The moderator cleared his throat, gesturing for her to begin. Amara's heart pounded. She swallowed hard, offered a silent prayer that her baby would stay quiet, and clicked to the first slide of her presentation. She spoke clearly, calmly, but behind her voice was the ache of knowing she was already being dismissed, before her story even had a chance. Amara hadn't planned to bring her baby. In fact, she'd done everything to avoid it. She lined up childcare weeks in advance, double-checked the timing, even packed a backup bottle just in case. But life, as it often did, had other plans. Her sitter cancelled an hour before the pitch. Her husband was overseas, serving in the military. There was no family nearby to call. The funding presentation couldn't be moved. It was now or never. So she strapped her daughter to her chest, whispered a promise that everything would be okay, and walked into that room with more fear than she let show. She wasn't asking for money for herself. Her nonprofit, Mothers on the Move, had already made real impact, pop-up health clinics in neighborhoods where mothers had to take 3 buses just to see a doctor. Volunteers offering prenatal care and mental health support for young women with nowhere else to go. She'd driven herself into debt to keep the clinics running, not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. As she moved through her presentation slides, her daughter stirred softly, letting out a quiet coo. A few heads turned. Amara's throat tightened. She tried to focus, charts, statistics, success stories, but she could feel the weight of every judgmental glance. Still, she continued. She knew what this meant. Not just for her, but for every mother who had ever had to choose between being there for her child and being taken seriously. Halfway through her presentation, just as she was explaining the logistics of her mobile clinic model, her daughter began to fuss. At first, it was a small whimper, easy to talk over. But within seconds, it grew into a full, urgent cry, the kind that pierced through the air and left no room to ignore. Amara froze. She gently bounced her daughter, whispered soothing words, but the crying didn't stop. One of the judges sighed audibly and checked their watch. Another shook their head, clearly annoyed. And that was it. The moment everything shifted. Amara slowly set down the clicker and looked up at the panel. Her voice, when she spoke, was calm but firm. "I know some of you are wondering why I brought my baby here today," she began. "And I know some of you might think it's unprofessional. But I brought her because I had no other choice. Because this mission. What I'm building, it's for mothers who live without choices every single day." The room grew still. She went on, her voice growing stronger. "The women we serve don't get to cancel appointments when life goes wrong. They don't get time off or safe places to heal. They just survive, and often, they do it alone. This nonprofit exists because I know that pain firsthand. And I want better for them." There were no more whispers. No more shifting in seats. Just silence. The kind that comes when the truth lands deeper than anyone expects. When Amara finished speaking, the room remained silent. No one moved. No one reached for a pen or sipped their water. Her daughter, now calm and resting quietly against her chest, seemed to sense the shift too. Amara stood there, her heart pounding, unsure if her words had landed or if she just sealed her rejection. She had laid everything bare, her story, her struggle, her purpose. And for a moment, it felt like it wasn't enough. Then, quietly, a woman near the end of the table stood up. She looked older than the others, elegant and composed, but her eyes shimmered with tears. She spoke softly, her voice trembling. "My daughter was a single mother," she said. "She died 3 years ago because she couldn't afford the care she needed. I've sat on dozens of panels like this one, but no one has ever reminded me why I started giving, until today." She paused, then looked directly at Amara. "Thank you, for bringing her. And for not hiding the reality that so many women face." A hush fell again, then a second panelist slowly stood, nodding. Then another. And another. Soon, the whole room was on their feet, offering quiet, respectful applause, not just for the pitch, but for the courage. Amara blinked back tears, holding her daughter a little tighter. For the first time that day, she didn't feel judged. She felt seen. Heard. Understood. Something far more powerful than approval, she had sparked a movement. 3 weeks later, Amara sat in the same chair where she had once felt so uncertain, this time, with her baby sleeping peacefully in a wrap and a stack of grant agreements on the table beside her. Her nonprofit, Mothers on the Move, had not only been funded, it had been embraced. Donations poured in from individuals who saw themselves in her story, from mothers and daughters, doctors and teachers, even former skeptics on the panel. Some had written personal notes. Others sent baby clothes with their checks. With the funding, Amara launched 3 new mobile clinics within months. They served hundreds of women, offering prenatal care, mental health counseling, even transportation to doctor appointments. Every time a mother whispered, "Thank you," Amara thought of that day in the conference room, of the judgment she faced, and the moment it turned into something beautiful. She never apologized for bringing her daughter again. In fact, the baby became part of her story. Proof that professionalism doesn't always look like silence and polished shoes. Sometimes, it looks like persistence wrapped in a baby blanket. She started receiving invitations to speak at conferences, to mentor other women founders. And each time, she opened with the truth, "They thought I was unprofessional for bringing my baby, until they saw why I had to." What had once felt like a mistake had become her power. And in showing her truth, she gave permission for others to do the same. Kindness, it turned out, was the most professional thing of all.